Coming up on today's wrestling news, WWE's worst nightmare just came true. Goldberg! 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 More details on the AEW Jon Moxley lawsuit.
Got my throat there. And Carlito shoots on Triple H and WWE in 2025.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. And some awful news to kick off with.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan is injured. If you watched last night's Raw, you probably know all about this. And you probably, just like me and Hamflett, panicked immediately when you saw her grab her shoulder and roll to the outside. And unfortunately, her match with Kairi Sane had to be called off. So, yeah, a bit of backstory to this. It was going to be Kairi Sane versus Liv Morgan. One would assume some involvement from Nikki Bella
possibly.
in and around this match to set up their...
or Io Sky, interestingly.
Oreo, yes.
Liv Morgan was involved.
Liv Morgan opened the show as well, yeah, I should mention that. But, yeah, a very innocuous injury. These are always the worst. Yeah. It's just like a trip early on in the match from Kairi Sane. Liv Morgan went down onto her arms and just sort of jarred her shoulder by the looks of it. Yeah. The general consensus appears to be a dislocated shoulder for Liv Morgan. Mike Johnson of PW Insider doing some great reporting on this, saying it's 100% a legitimate injury. She's not going off to do some more filming or anything like that. For those who've asked with conspiracy theories, this is a way it was a right or out or not. No, that is not the case. She was checked out by WWE medical personnel as soon as she was brought backstage. WWE's waiting to learn the severity of the dislocation, which would determine how long she's out for physical action. If it's severe, and here's hoping it's not, it could be upwards of 16 weeks before someone is cleared for athletic activity. But again, all dependent on the final diagnosis and how severe the dislocation is. That's not been determined at time of reporting. It's a freak occurrence. There's no heat on a Kairi or anyone like that. Obviously, like I said, it was just so innocuous. But it was interesting to see Rhea Ripley, who, let's be honest, has had quite the history with Liv Morgan in kayfabe. Mm-hmm. She kind of broke character because of social media being the worst. Simply tweeting a PSA saying, don't celebrate an injury, disgusting behaviour, don't be like them. So yeah, even if you're not the biggest fan of Liv Morgan, and if that's the case, what's wrong with you? She's one of the best female wrestlers this year by a mile. Don't celebrate. Even if it's someone you don't like, whenever someone gets injured, that just means even if you're not a fan of their work, they don't get to do the thing they love for a certain period of time, which is rubbish. This, though, is absolutely devastating. I have a suggestion to potentially save what would have been one of the biggest matches at Evolution. But before that, your thoughts on one of your favourites going down with an injury.
It's brutal, man. It's brutal. Yeah, let's do the bad news and then try and end this on a bit of a high, because I think we've discussed this morning. There might be some good news to come out the elite aid of this. Just a total disaster for WWE and, of course, Liv Morgan herself. Get well soon, Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
Hope it's less than that diagnosis, but if it is that, 16 weeks they were talking about? That's going to be the fat end of 2025. So, she will be an enormous miss to this product in 2025. One only need to look at last night's Raw to see evidence of that. She opens the show cutting a promo on wanting to get her world title back, so that would have eventually maybe seen her head back towards Io Sky. She's obviously currently tag team champions with Raquel Rodriguez. She's involved in a massive storyline with the constant sort of tension within the Judgment Day and Dominic Mysterio. It's felt like there's been a babyface turn bubbling underneath, because there's just that much support behind it, because she's become so locked in 2025. And obviously the immediate future was, that Nikki Bella, Nikki and Rhea or Bella Twins tag match that seemed a lock for Evolution. Who knows? Maybe this won't be as bad as we first thought, and tomorrow we'll get to come on and tell you all about how the news isn't anywhere near as severe. But in the meantime, the worst case scenario looks rough all the way around for Liv Morgan, for WWE, and I include myself in this, massive fans of her work.
It's horrible when you see a wrestler go out, even if they don't throw up the dreaded X. You can it's just a different vibe, isn't it? When someone goes down like that. Like, she went down, she rolled to the outside. Kairi's like, what's going on? And she covered for it very well in terms of just entertaining the crowd whilst Liv's being checked over. So shout out to Kairi Sane for that.
Yeah, there wasn't much anyone could do. Like, the commentators were initially trying to talk through it, and then it was just...
Yeah, they're just like, well, what do you mean, what do we do? Presumably Nikki Bella's just stood there in gorilla going, I mean, it's not really babyface for me to come out and jump her now, is it?
Shall I get her now? The good side, if there is such a thing, is wrestling has a funny way of, aiding a wrestler's return in a way that they never think is going to happen. You hear all the time about wrestlers being like, are they going to forget about me? Like the insecurity that runs rife within pro wrestling. Well, nobody's going to forget about Liv.
And that babyface turn's going to happen now, isn't it?
Well, it's almost impossible, I think, for her to make any, especially the longer she's out, for her to make any kind of return from an injury that could be as like severe sounding as this without getting an enormous pop upon her return. Think about this too. There are two ways WWE could go with this, and both of them could be in service of the current story they're telling.
Yeah, we were talking about this, weren't we, before we came in here?
Well, one is the complete blanket disappearance, right, which is not ideal, but then you've got an enormous pop-up on a return. You've got a potential...
A bit like Rhea.
Like for like with the Rhea Ripley storyline of last year. And look at the calendar. If they delay it through Christmas, that leaves her open to return at the Royal Rumble as one of the hotly tipped favourites, either as a surprise or as an announcement, like...
I'm back and I'm entering the Royal Rumble, I'm going to win it.
Watch me, video drop, something like that, you know? So that's the positive of if they decide to just remove from screen altogether. You have already got me quite hyped on the possibility of not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you could have I'm not a medical person, but I assume it's a lot easier than if you've broken your leg to be able to turn up for telly with your arm. It's presumably just got to be held in place so it heals. I've had we
had the punker in the elbow.
I've had flatmates who are rugby players who've dislocated, broken collarbones and stuff like that, and it seems like as long as they keep their arm in a certain position, you're probably going to be all right. So don't take any bumps or anything like that.
Luke O'Neill dislocated his shoulder in the playoff final and still was able to celebrate and lift the trophy.
Did he go to the doctors that night, or did he...
I think he pushed it back to the next day.
I thought so.
I'm pretty sure he waited till Sunday to get seen.
Yeah, but my suggestion to you immediately, what I thought of, and not to sort of disregard Liv, as we say, we love her here on Shep's That's what very soon was. The story is right there. Roxanne Perez, rather than them dropping the tag titles because they can't defend or anything, Roxanne Perez goes no. Freebird rules, the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
I'll team up with Raquel Rodriguez. Then you can still have the feud with the Bellas. You can arguably drop the belts to the Bellas, which I think they might have been planning on doing anyway. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But either way, her just filling in for Liv Morgan in more ways than one, perhaps.
What do you mean by that? Sort of help
Dirty Dom always gets his head turned when his girlfriend goes away.
This has occurred in the past. Yeah. We'll talk more about this, I guess, on the Raw Review podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, the podcast YouTube channel as well. But yes, get well soon, Liv Morgan, from all of us. Leave your comments and thoughts for her in the replies below to all this. Be nice. Injuries are not cool. But,
live, laugh, love.
Watch me. And watch Bill Goldberg, whether you want to or not, because he's got a world title shot in a segment that played a lot like how, segments used to when legends just rocked up and got what they wanted. He returned last night on Monday Night Raw. This was not so much a surprise as a worst kept secret, was it? We kind of previewed it, everybody talked about it. There'd been previous with Gunther and Goldberg. Yes, I should say, he returned to challenge Gunther for the world title at Saturday night's main event in Atlanta. Gunther.
Can't wait for that weekend. Saturday night's main event, Great American Bash, Evolution. That's it. All that weekend.
No, there's no time. So Gunther said, I'm aware of the rumours, I'm aware of the whispers, the hearsay, so come on, get out here. Seth Rollins, at which point there's Goldberg chance going in. And sure enough, Goldberg does come out, he answers the chance, and he answers Gunther. Lays down the...
Gets gassed walking to the ring.
Yeah.
He's an old man.
He's not... The walk to the ring took a little bit longer than usual, and he looks like... anyway, we'll talk about it later.
It's his last match. Give him...
Well, and this is the point, right? So, he challenged Gunther, and he said, this started in front of my family in Atlanta, and this is going to end in front of my family in Atlanta.
I like that line a lot.
It's a nice way they've kind of tied those two things together. Of course, Gunther mocked Goldberg when they were last in Atlanta. His family were there and all of that. However... WWE have released a range of merchandise entitled Goldberg's Last Ride. And Triple H put some comments online after the fact saying, no better place for Goldberg to get back in the ring than Atlanta. Saturday night's main event, get ready. We've speculated on this before. Last ride and return to the ring don't exactly stress last match.
Yeah, one final time.
Yeah. Could this extend past Saturday night's main event, I guess, is the new question. WWE did not say that this would be Goldberg's last match. They did not say win or retire. Gunther didn't say, I'll put you out for good. Yes, there are now a few weeks to build to that match, and that might factor into it. But I don't know. Stuck out to me that nobody was exactly, the way that last was used was very much more about the run rather than the actual match itself. Yeah,
I mean, I'm obviously, I think Gunther wins at Saturday night's main event. And it's going to be, sit back and enjoy. I know some fans are like, this is not what I wanted. it's a detour for Gunther. Let's be perfectly honest here. I think gone are the days where the Fiend drops the world title to an old man in Saudi Arabia, for example. So I sense that we're going to get a spear and a jackhammer in there, and I think Gunther's going to do his absolute best in there to make this match what we hope it can be. But I think he still leaves as world heavyweight champion. Having said that, I would cut, and it being Atlanta, it would be a nice send off there, and maybe they're going to do a twist in the coming weeks where Gunther's like, you usually do enter a world title match. Well, I've changed the contract now, and now, if you don't win, you have to retire. Yeah, they could make it part of the storyline to really heal Gunther up for all this, because everyone really likes Gunther. Let's be perfectly honest here. But we also debate the fact that maybe you want to do one last hurrah at, let's say, SummerSlam, where he does a sort of Dolph Ziggler-esque squash, because that's really what fans want to see.
I think so.
The lasting memory of Goldberg is coming in, spearing someone a few times, hitting him with a jackhammer and standing tall within about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And we said Austin Theory, I think was the name that automatically popped into our head. Just some person who could just bounce around for him. And I will say, there are detractors to Austin Theory. There are numerous ones of them. Grayson Waller's one of them. But he is class at bumping. Like, his stunner cell is one of the best stunner cells, in my opinion.
He knows his way around stooging for somebody like a Goldberg. And indeed, the idea that Grayson Waller could run his mouth and Austin Theory would be the one to have to take the punishment for it, and that'd be the end of this never-ending argument/split storyline between the A-Time and Down Under. Finally being that.
Round New Day and backstage bit I saw.
Bloody furious with it. So you got to be eagle-eyed to catch this sort of stuff. That's why.
Shout out to Xavier Woods for his outfit on last night.
Oh my God, by the way, he looked awesome.
Wow,
what a hater. But yeah, that's what we know about Goldberg now. But final match not confirmed. Final run very much in the offing, as was evidenced by seeing Goldberg on Raw. He's back, and Gunther's next.
Well, I think really Goldberg's son's next, but we'll talk more about that on the Raw podcast, I suppose. Right, got to be very careful with how we deal with this next story.
Somebody should be.
It's ongoing litigation, so probably shouldn't say too much about it because everyone was talking about this yesterday. There is a lawsuit that has been filed against AEW and Jon Moxley, Jonathan Good, by a production crew member who's been working with AEW since 2019, alleging various degrees of negligence by AEW and Moxley, alongside civil assault and battery against Jon Moxley concerning an incident on AEW Dynamite a few years ago. This person is called, I wrote his name down, Christopher Dispenza, and he did contract work for the AEW from 2019, as I said. He's not a direct employee of AEW. No. He works for Broadcast Service Group, which supplies crew for AEW. Now, you've seen the clip already if you've been online about all this. It's during the steel cage match. Mox is meant to get a screwdriver from this production crew member, cameraman, whatever role he was meant to be playing there.
Basically, if you recall, it was a cage match against Kenny Omega where it would be revealed.
Is that when he almost lost his nuts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the screwdriver was key to it, because remember, it was the Don Callis turn.
Yeah.
But it had to be introduced organically, so what the idea was, he's just robbed it from a crew member.
Yes.
That was where the idea was supposed to end.
Yes. And what he did was he did rob it from a crew member, but then shoved this person over.
Yeah.
And the accusation says that Moxley either showed intent to harm Dispenza or at a minimum a complete disregard for whether harm was a result. Dispenza himself claims he suffered severe neck and shoulder injuries as a result of being shoved, requiring cervical fusion surgery, shoulder surgery and treatment for other unspecified injuries. Also, the lawsuit alleges that Moxley had a history of disciplinary issues before this incident involving other people while under AEW's employ. It also says that past disciplinary offences by Moxley include a documented history of unpredictability as well as a lack of control by defendant AEW, all of which were known or should have been known to defendant AEW at the time of this assault. So big things here, and as I say, active litigation, not something we are going to speculate on too much, and not something, certainly if you work for AEW, you should be tweeting about. Ricochet. This was a really dumb move, whether in character or not. It was just real stupid, because as I said, this was all over social media yesterday, clips and people sharing the lawsuit and what have you, and Ricochet quote tweeted one of these posts, simply writing, "We live in a world of pussies." So, whatever happens with that lawsuit, a few more zeros got added on to the end of it.
Very possibly. He did delete that, obviously, after the fact, but, the internet remembers, the screenshots and all that sort of stuff. Can't really speculate. There was some interesting stuff, and I guess we'll see what comes of this ultimately, whether or not it ends up getting settled out of court. It's funny, like not funny, the clip doing the rounds. It's right there on television. It's not this sort of thing that you have to like find somebody's phone footage or whatever. Yeah. It's just there it is. You can watch it. But the more the lawsuit goes on, the more the accusations or the allegations or however it would be phrased about, I guess, like they're trying to suggest a pattern of behaviour that we can point out. We should point out, I suppose, to be responsible. There is nothing out front about that. There is no previous that we can aggregate or talk about. John Albert, I think, did the work on this one. There is no sort of prior... Anything that has been outlined in this case as part of the allegation is not something that we have heard of previously.
I mean, you try and make people drink bleach.
Maybe that's what he's referring to.
That wasn't character.
Maybe that was the entire
Death Riders.
Imagine that getting to the bottom of the contract. Do you not see what he did to the Rock and Roll Express? Don't know why everybody's sharing the push. They want to be sharing that time that he tried to force Darby on to drink bleach. So, no. But in all seriousness, none of that stuff is anything we've ever been made aware of. So if this is some sort of like attempted, I guess, collection of other incidents, that's stuff that might have to come out in the wash or come out in further trial or litigation or whatever. And we'll see if this goes beyond out of court settlement. We shall see, I guess.
I didn't realise Ricochet was such a cat person. More of a dog person myself, but still.
Speaking of being cool for cats, Carlito Caribbean cool.
Really, sorry, wait a second. Let's pump the brakes on that. That was an incredible segue. That was amazing.
Thank you so much. Let me take another bite of the apple and try again. Because Carlito has been talking since his WWE release about his time there. Spent about roughly 2 years with the company. It was all a bit weird. He returned for that enormous pop at Backlash Puerto Rico. Was re-signed.
When are they going back to Puerto Rico?
I need it.
We'll be there.
And I'm going to say, yeah, we'll be there live. No, he got an enormous pop, obviously, but then was re-signed. Somewhat surprisingly, and then didn't appear for ages. Made his return, came back briefly as a babyface before kind of embracing his more natural heel role. Slimily sneaking his way into the Judgment Day, the street trash version of the Judgment Day.
Best version.
When they're separated from Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest post SummerSlam 2024. He's since been released, came at the end of his deal in the same weekend as R-Truth and Sarah Logan, and has now been speaking to Busted Open. There's something I want to pick up on that specifically in a second. He's mentioned his relationship with Triple H in terms of the release. Said he wasn't too shocked or surprised. I saw him for 2 years. It went better than I thought it would go. I'm a professional. They could have told me because I would have liked to have finished the storyline with the Judgment Day. But it was all his own ideas. I took literally nothing and I made something with it. He mentions on Triple H, I'm not getting pushed. Triple H, I think personally he likes me, but was never a big fan of the character. You know, the one that sits in the background and plays video games, basically. But yeah, he says it went better than he thought it would. Interestingly here, now I thought this was unique because he was speaking on Busted Open to Bully Ray. Now just listen to Carlito's words here. It was weird showing up to work happy. It was just, all attention, all the old school BS, people walking around on eggshells, because it was the only game in town. Now the boys knowing that, with AEW being around, it helps because you can't bully because there's a place for people to go. I think Hunter's done a good job too, cleaning all that crap out. Bully Ray. It's a new generation. You can't just get away with certain things you could before. A bunch of that BS is gone now, and people go there, show up, and do the work. So that's Carlito painting a picture of a calmer, more peaceful locker room.
To Bully Ray.
Anyway, thank you to Busted Open for the interview and the aggregation of which we always
from. As we always say, the locker room morale is vastly different to how it was under Vince. I think it's all credit. I mean, it wasn't exactly a difficult shift, just be less
one of the many low bars that Triple H had to clear.
But always nice to hear that people like going to work, I suppose. But I don't think Carlito can have many complaints. I think, for what he's done.
And he was
never, like 2025 or 2024, the years he's been working there, got quite a few people who I think most fans would put above Carlito in the pecking order. But I think Carlito did a great job in the Judgment Day.
It is worth remembering he's one of the very best people to draw this comparison, right? Because here he is in 2025 getting to turn up to Raw, sit in a clubhouse and play Xbox for a bit and make chicken tendies jokes with Dominic Mysterio. He worked on the SmackDown era where in the locker room there was The Undertaker, JBL, Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle kind of like policing, and Brock Lesnar briefly, policing the corridors and just thinking like, that sounds like the scariest locker room of all time. And there he was, like, so sort of like, right boys, spitting in like, as part of his job, Bradshaw, they want me to spit an apple in your face this week. That's so!
well.
So the contrast is kind of perfect, isn't it, between then and now. Fair play, Carlito.
Love Carlito.
We had a lot of fun with this run, and I'm sure it'll be absolutely fun.
Carlito loves a party. His bodyguard, Jesus, loves a party, of course. But I think a better...
Maybe he's the one that comes back and stops John Cena. Well, leave it!
A better night to go to, that Carlito actually has been to before, is Sweet Chin Disco. We are heading back out on the road, myself and my good friend, we're still weird to say it, Mark Henry, heading out around the UK, following the WWE shows, basically. If you want to check it out and get yourself tickets, it is an amazing wrestling club night. It's going on after every single one of WWE's live shows here in the UK. If you want to join us for that, just search for Sweet Chin Disco on socials and all the links. And the clips, if you're unconvinced, will convince you. Check them out on all the socials. Really excited to be doing that at the end of August. Sweet Chin Disco.
He's playing this bit down as well because he's talking about everybody else. Getting to see this man in action, suited and booted, is worth the price of admission alone as well. Highest recommendation for me to get yourself along.
It is such a good night. Do join us for that one. And do let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed, well, within legal ramifications, as we mentioned with the Moxley story, in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, of course. And in the meantime, why not check out this video right here? Hey, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure they'll love it.
I know that for sure.